You are told your ego is the enemy. You are told it is a monster of pride, a saboteur of ambition, an unhealthy belief in your own importance that must be starved, chained, and ultimately destroyed. Books are written about it. Gurus preach its annihilation. And so, you fight it. You try to be humble. You try to be selfless. You try to silence that voice inside you that wants more, that feels slighted, that burns with ambition. But the fight leaves you exhausted. The monster, it seems, only grows stronger in the dark. Today, we are talking about your ego. And yes, in its current state, it is your enemy. But I'm going to reveal what Friedrich Nietzsche, the most provocative philosopher of the modern age, understood about this war. The goal is not to kill your enemy. The goal is to overcome it, to transform it, to forge it into a weapon so powerful that it no longer points at your own heart, but at the chains that have held you captive your entire life. This is not about humility. This is about a radical form of self-mastery that begins when you stop trying to erase yourself and start daring to create yourself. So I ask you a question that cuts deeper than you might expect. What if the part of you that you have been taught to hate the most, that raw, hungry, ambitious ego, is not a flaw to be corrected, but the very raw material of your potential greatness? What if the path to becoming unshakable is not through suppression, but through a terrifying process of self-creation? Stay with me, because we are about to descend into the 3 steps Nietzsche laid out for this transformation. This is not a guide for the faint of heart. This is a manual for becoming the master of your own soul. If you enjoyed this content, please subscribe to our channel and like this video. Thank you for your support. Before you can confront an enemy, you must understand its nature. The ego that poisons your life, the one that makes you weak, reactive, and resentful, is not the strong, sovereign self you were meant to have. It is a weak, frightened imposter. It is a tyrant built on a throne of sand, and its kingdom is your anxiety. This is the ego of the herd. It is the part of you that lives in constant, desperate need of external validation. It craves likes. It fears criticism. It measures its worth by the applause or silence of others. This frantic neediness is a symptom of a deep spiritual sickness, a void within that you attempt to fill with the fleeting opinions of a world that, ultimately, does not care about your becoming. Where does this fragile ego come from? Nietzsche would argue it is a ghost, an echo of a slave morality you have unknowingly internalized. To grasp this, you must understand its opposite, master morality. For Nietzsche, the noble, powerful individual originally determined value. Good was a synonym for their own qualities: pride, strength, courage, ambition. Bad simply meant common, weak, or clumsy. But the powerless, the oppressed, could not compete on these terms. So they initiated what Nietzsche, in his work on the genealogy of morality, called the transvaluation of values. They performed a spiritual revenge. They declared the strengths of the noble to be evil and sanctified their own weaknesses, humility, pity, patience, as good. It is a system of values designed not for the strong to flourish, but for the weak to survive by pulling everyone down to their level. This morality seeps into your bones from childhood. It teaches you to shrink, to apologize for your own existence, to put the needs of the collective before the demands of your own becoming. You learn to live for others, to seek their approval, to fear their judgment. Your ego becomes a frantic servant, constantly scurrying to please masters who will never be satisfied. This is the source of your quiet suffering. You feel a deep, gnawing resentment, a feeling Nietzsche called ressentiment. It is the bitterness of the powerless, the impotent rage of those who cannot act. It is not mere envy. It is an envy that curdles into a moral judgment. You see others succeed, and a part of you feels a sting, not because you are a bad person, but because their strength reminds you of your own self-imposed weakness. You smile, you offer congratulations, but inside, a toxic brew of comparison and inadequacy churns. The man of resentment cannot create his own value, so he finds psychological relief by devaluing others. He whispers poison into your ear. You are not good enough. They are just lucky. They cheated. The world is unfair. This logic is the venomous psychology of the fable, the fox declaring the grapes he cannot reach are sour. It is a defense mechanism that preserves the ego's fragility at the cost of your power. It is not a roaring lion. It is a spider, spinning a web of excuses, justifications, and blame. It keeps you trapped in a cycle of inaction and mediocrity. You procrastinate on your goals because the weak ego fears failure more than it desires growth. Failure, to this ego, is a public execution, a confirmation of its deepest fear of worthlessness. So it convinces you not to try. It prefers the safety of the dream to the risk of reality. It tells you the time isn't right. You don't have the resources. You need more training. These are all lies spun by the spider to keep you immobile in its web. It sabotages your relationships, your career, your very soul, all under the guise of protecting you. But it is not protecting you. It is protecting itself. It is keeping you small and predictable and controllable. It is ensuring you never discover the terrifying, exhilarating truth of your own power. You must understand this clearly. The enemy is not your ambition. The enemy is not your pride. The enemy is this small, cowering, herd-driven imposter that has hijacked your identity. And the first step to overthrowing this tyrant is to do the one thing it cannot stand. It is to turn and face the fire it spends its entire existence trying to avoid. Your fragile ego is a creature of comfort. It builds its fortress in the land of the predictable, the safe, and the known. Its greatest terror is chaos. Its deepest fear is suffering. Therefore, the first act of rebellion against this inner tyrant is a declaration of war on its entire worldview. You must stop running from pain and start running towards it. Nietzsche called this principle amor fati, love of fate. It is not a passive acceptance of your circumstances. It is an active, passionate embrace of everything that happens to you, the good, the bad, the beautiful, and the utterly devastating. The ultimate test for this principle is Nietzsche's thought experiment of the eternal recurrence. Imagine a demon were to steal after you into your loneliest loneliness and say to you that you must live this exact life with every pain and every joy, over and over again for all eternity. Would you collapse in despair? Or would you declare it a divine proclamation, to will the eternal return of your life in its entirety is the highest affirmation of existence? Think about the moments that have shaped you. Were they the easy, comfortable days, or were they the moments of crisis, of heartbreak, of failure, of loss? The weak ego experiences these moments as wounds, as proof of its inadequacy. It cries out, "Why me?" It seeks someone to blame. It retreats into victimhood. This is its primary survival mechanism. But the Creator, the one who seeks self-mastery, understands a deeper truth. These moments of suffering are not obstacles on the path. They are the path. Each betrayal is a lesson in discernment, forcing you to sharpen your judgment of character. Each business failure is a brutal but effective lesson in resilience and market reality, forging a wiser entrepreneur. Each loss is a lesson in what truly matters, burning away the trivial and revealing the essential. Suffering is the chisel that sculpts the soul. Without its harsh blows, the soul remains a rough, unformed block of marble. Amor fati is the conscious choice to say yes to all of it, not just to endure it, but to will it, to look at the worst moment of your life, the one that brought you to your knee, and say, I would not have it any other way, for it was necessary for me to become who I am. This is an act of supreme power. It rips the weapon of victimhood from your ego's hands. How can the world hurt you when you have already chosen to love your own destiny in its entirety? How can criticism sting you when you see it as friction necessary to polish your own spirit? The critic, from this perspective, becomes an unwitting assistant in your self-perfection. Practicing amor fati is a daily discipline. When you face a setback, a project rejection, a financial loss, a personal conflict, your ego will immediately begin its script of complaint and blame. You must catch it. You must intervene. You must ask a new set of questions. Not, why is this happening to me? But, what can I become because this is happening? Not, how can I avoid this pain? But, how can I use this pain as fuel? This is the alchemy of the spirit. It is turning the lead of misfortune into the gold of wisdom, suffering into strength. It is the understanding that the universe is not happening to you. It is happening for you. It is providing the perfect set of challenges required for your own self-overcoming. This practice starves the weak ego. The ego thrives on narrative control, on the story of its own unfair suffering and noble victimhood. Amor fati destroys that narrative. It replaces the story of the victim with the story of the hero, the one who actively forges meaning from chaos. You stop seeking a life without storms. You start building a ship strong enough to sail through any tempest. You stop praying for a lighter burden. You start building a stronger back, capable of carrying any weight and transforming it into muscle. This is the first terrifying step toward true freedom. You stop seeing the world as a source of your pain and begin to see it as the training ground for your power. But embracing your fate is only the beginning. It gives you the raw material. Now, you must become the artist who shapes it, and for that, you must awaken a different kind of force. You must awaken the lion. Nietzsche describes the spiritual journey of the self-creator in 3 stages, 3 metamorphoses. The first is the camel. The camel is the spirit of duty and obedience. It kneels down to take on heavy burdens. It carries the weight of tradition, of societal expectations, of the thou shalts imposed upon it by others. The burdens are specific. The pressure from your family to choose a safe career, the cultural imperative to marry and buy a house by a certain age, the religious dogma you never questioned, the political ideologies you absorbed without critique. These are the heaviest weights, and the dutiful spirit kneels like the camel, asking, "What is my heaviest burden?" so that it may take it upon itself and rejoice in its strength. The camel is the good soldier of the herd morality. It finds its worth in its ability to endure, to serve, to obey. This is the state of the weak ego. You carry the burdens of what you think you should be, what you should want, what you should believe. You are heavy with the values of others. The practice of amor fati strengthens the camel, allowing it to bear even the heaviest loads without breaking. But self-mastery is not about becoming the strongest beast of burden. It is about liberation. And so, in the loneliest desert of self-reflection, the camel must transform into the second stage, the lion. The lion's task is destruction. Its sacred word is no. The lion rises up to fight the great dragon, and on every scale of this dragon is written a thou shalt. Thou shalt be humble. Thou shalt be agreeable. Thou shalt put others first. Thou shalt not be too proud, too ambitious, too different. Thou shalt be practical. Thou shalt not make waves. Thou shalt fit in. These are the values of the herd, the shimmering ancient scales that form the bars of your cage. The camel could only obey them. The lion is here to destroy them. The lion represents the awakening of the will to power. This is not the brutish desire to dominate others. That is the caricature created by the weak to demonize strength. The will to power, for Nietzsche, is the fundamental drive of all life to expand, to grow, to overcome resistance, to express its fullest potential. It is the drive of a seed to break through concrete, of a scientist to demolish a flawed paradigm, of an artist to wrestle a masterpiece from raw, chaotic inspiration. Becoming the lion is the active, aggressive questioning of every value you have ever held. You must put your own beliefs on trial. Why do you believe what you believe? Is it because you have reasoned it out for yourself, tested it against your own experience? Or is it because you were told to believe it by your parents, your teachers, your culture? Did you choose your morality, or did you inherit it like a piece of second-hand furniture, dusty and ill-fitting? This is a terrifying process. It means standing alone. It means facing the disapproval of the herd, the very thing your weak ego is conditioned to fear most. When you start saying no to the values that have kept you small, people will call you selfish. They will call you arrogant. They will call you dangerous. This is not a sign that you are wrong. It is a sign that you are finally beginning to free yourself. They are not attacking you. They are attacking the lion that threatens the comfortable sleep of the sheep, for your freedom is a mirror that reveals their own chains. This is the war against the weak ego. You are tearing down the prison walls it calls home. You are rejecting the external authorities it uses to define itself. You are seizing the right to become your own lawgiver. The lion does not seek approval. It seeks freedom. It does not want to be good according to someone else's definition. It wants to be the creator of its own good and evil. This is the essence of self-mastery. It is the courage to say, I will be the author of my own soul. I will write my own commandments on my own tablets of stone. This destructive phase is absolutely critical. You cannot build a new temple on the ground where an old one still stands. You must clear the rubble. You must burn away the dead wood of inherited beliefs, second-hand opinions, and cowardly virtues that masquerade as morality. You must create a sacred emptiness within yourself, a clean slate. This is the freedom the lion wins, but freedom from something is meaningless without freedom for something. And this is why the lion, having conquered the dragon and stood victorious amidst the ruins of the old world, must undergo one final miraculous transformation. After the sacred destruction of the lion comes the final metamorphosis. The spirit becomes a child. Why a child? Because the child represents a new beginning. It is innocence and forgetting. It is a sacred yes, while the camel could only say, I will, under the weight of duty, and the lion could only say, I will not, in a state of rebellion. The child says, I am. This is not the affirmation of a pre-existing self, but the declaration of a self in constant, joyful creation. The child is the creator, having thrown off the burdens of the past, forgetting, and destroyed the old values, innocence. The spirit is now free to create new ones. It plays the game of creation with a divine lightness and seriousness. The child does not act out of a sense of duty like the camel, nor out of a reactive anger like the lion. The child acts out of pure, joyful, overflowing will. It lives in a state of play. This is the state of the Übermensch, the Overman. The Overman is not a specific person or a new species, but a state of being, an ideal to strive for. It is the human who has overcome himself, who has organized the chaos of his passions, who has given style to his character, a great and rare art, and who has become the creator of his own life. To give style to one's character means to survey all the strengths and weaknesses of your nature and then forge them into an artistic plan where even the flaws have their place and meaning, as an artist molds clay. Your life itself becomes your greatest work of art. This is the ultimate mastery of the ego. The ego is no longer a weak, frightened tyrant begging for scraps of validation from the outside world. It has been forged through the fire of amor fati and the hammer of the lion's will into a powerful, integrated center of the self. It is a strong ego. It does not need approval because it creates its own value. It does not fear failure because it sees every event as a necessary part of its becoming. It does not feel resentment because it is too busy creating. The ego's raw drive for status is sublimated into a demand for personal excellence. Its sensitivity to slight is refined into an acute tool for perception. Its ambition is no longer for control over others, but for mastery over the self. To become the child is to reclaim your creative innocence. Think of how a child plays. They are completely absorbed in the moment. They are not worried about judgment or failure. They are creating worlds out of sheer joy and imagination. This is the spirit of the self-mastered individual. Their work, their relationships, their entire life becomes a form of artistic play. They are no longer motivated by fear, guilt, or the need to prove themselves. They are motivated by the joy of expressing their own unique power, their will to power. Living as the child means you have forgotten the need to react. You no longer define yourself in opposition to the herd. The lion needed the dragon to define its rebellion. The child has moved beyond the fight entirely. You are simply moving in your own orbit, according to your own laws. The opinions of others become irrelevant, not because you are arrogant, but because their language, their values, their games no longer apply to you. You are playing a different game entirely, a game of your own creation. This is true freedom. It is not the absence of rules. It is the power to create your own. It is the end of the war with the ego, because the enemy has been transformed into your greatest ally. It is no longer a master to be served or a monster to be slain. It is a tool, a disciplined and powerful instrument through which your deepest self expresses its creative will upon the world. This is the pinnacle of Nietzsche's vision, to become so whole, so integrated, so sovereign, that your very existence is a work of art. You have walked this path with me. We started with the common belief that the ego is an enemy to be killed. We saw how this fight only leads to exhaustion and resentment. We descended into the Nietzschean truth. The true enemy is the weak, herd-driven ego, an imposter that has kept you small. We then explored the 3 steps of the Great Rebellion. First, to embrace the abyss through amor fati, learning to love your fate and turn all suffering into fuel for your growth. Second, to become the lion, destroying the old inherited values and clearing the ground for your own creation. And third, to become the child, the ultimate state of the self-mastered creator who plays the game of life with joy and lightness, living by their own laws. This is not a simple checklist. This is a lifelong path of becoming. It is difficult. It is lonely. It will demand more courage than you think you possess, but it is the only path to a life that is truly your own. It is the path to becoming the person you were always meant to be, before the world told you who you should be. You stop reacting to life, and you start creating it. You stop being a character in someone else's story, and you become the author of your own epic. The war is not over when the enemy is dead. The war is over when the enemy has become a part of you, a disciplined soldier serving a greater cause. The cause of your own magnificent becoming. Your potential is not something to be found, but something to be built. If this journey resonates with you, if you feel the call to stop fighting yourself and start creating yourself, then this is your moment. This is not just a video. It is a gathering of individuals who are tired of living on the surface, who are ready to do the hard work of self-overcoming. Write in the comments below, "I am a creator." Declare it, not as a wish, but as a statement of intent. Let this be the first day of your new life, a life where you are no longer the enemy of your own soul, but its greatest artist. Welcome to the path of self-mastery.